Matt, hey, before we ask you about the two signees, can you tell us if you know anything yet about Eric?
Yeah, he's going to be out for a while. He'll be out for 6 to 8 weeks. He didn't have any ligament damage to his knee, but obviously I talked about they thought it was a bone bruise. If I'm saying it right, it's a compression fracture of the tibia. If I got that right.
Hmm.
So if I mess something up, I apologize there. But in a nutshell, he'll be out 6 to 8 weeks is what they think right now.
So who do you need to kind of fill that void in the meantime?
Any of those guards are welcome to fill the void. We're so young, and one of our other freshmen has been out for 2.5 weeks, and he might be out even longer. So, any of those other guys
Right.
need to step up.
Right.
You get, you're going to have more of an opportunity, but we're in such a learning mode of trying to understand what we're supposed to do and just building, good habits more than anything. I'm not trying to be difficult to answer your question, but it's really hard to answer at this point.
Right. And then just to switch gears to the two signees, can you just, to start off, speak to them, how they fit together maybe?
Yeah. Well, I think, both of them are good players. They have a lot of, same qualities in terms of they're in good high school programs. They have good high school coaches. They play to win the game, and they both won state championships. But, blue collar, hardworking, selfless, they have a lot of those same qualities. That's an unbelievable recipe, for success. But, Caleb Furst, can play the 4 and play the 5. And, just his ability to move with that kind of size and athleticism. He really improved his free throw percentages last year, which is a great sign. A lot of times guys want to shoot shots on the perimeter, shoot threes. But first and foremost, when you have size, you got to be able to make your free throws. And he shot 82% last year. And I thought that was a fantastic stride on his part, especially since it was something I talked to him about. And, anytime you talk to guys about making improvements and doing certain things, then they take it, amongst themselves to make those improvements and do those things. So, him just continue to improve now, knocking down perimeter jumpers, hopefully knocking down threes. And that's something that when you get there, if you can have size and you can do that to go along with his ability to drive the ball from the perimeter, post up around the basket, just trying to be an all-around player. And then from a defensive standpoint, being able to guard the biggest guy on the court and then being able to guard the second biggest guy on the court, being able to guard, people of size. We double the post a lot. So, when he gets up against somebody who's 7'1", 7'2", we're going to give him help and be able to double in those areas. But then when he gets up against a face-up 4 who's, 6'7", 190, that's really like a big guard, now working towards getting that guy out of rhythm, shooting it, but also containing his dribble and just getting as many reps as he can in both situations to be able to help him, progress as a defender. And that's what we try to do is really help those guys grow offensively and understand a system, but also grow defensively and understand our defensive system. And that's really important to become a two-way player, especially as you advance past college. But we're, very excited, to get Caleb. And I think he's going to be a tremendous player at Purdue. Trey Kaufman, like I said, they have a lot of the same makeup in terms of, wanting winners. He's just a winner. He's a hardworking guy. He loves basketball and really always striving to find the next thing to improve, whether it's his lateral quickness, his outside shooting, whatever, just a kind of a basketball junkie. And we think he's going to be a great player for us. His improvement to be able to move and to be able to play a 3-4. We've talked a lot about Vince Edwards with him and, being able to play a small forward and also being able to play a power forward, but just a quality player, just a guy that gets it, understands, competes. Like I said, very similar to Caleb in those areas. But those two are going to be able to, I feel, win a lot of games for Purdue. Just do whatever it takes to to get the job done. But I think those two guys are going to be able to play in multiple scenarios together. And it really depends on other people. Like, they have to come in and earn it, and they understand that. And but it also depends on other people and, like, who's playing well. Like, we've went bigger before, and it wasn't something we just did in theory. We went bigger because our big players were our best players. They were really good. A.J. Hammonds was good. Isaac Haas was good. Caleb Swanigan was good. Vince Edwards was good. And so, sometimes the mix of it is what you have to work with. And then we had some very knowledgeable guards to go with those guys. And so we were able to play big with that lineup. And then as time progressed, we played smaller, especially when A.J. Hammonds graduated, and then Caleb went to the pros. And so then Vince was able to fluctuate right there. So, we're excited about all the possibilities that our team's going to have with different lineups.
That kind of transitions into my next question. There seems to be some interchangeability with these guys where they can play a couple of different spots. Just how important is that nowadays to have that sort of interchangeable nature where you can play a lot of different kinds of lineups in terms of it giving you your best chance to get your best five on the floor too?
Correct. And I think just the competitive nature of things, anytime you have a lot of good players, we had a great competitive nature at that time because you can always go with the next guy. You just can't. So, like, if, Caleb Swanigan didn't play well, Isaac Haas could pick him up. If Vince Edwards, played well, you want everybody to play well. You just don't leave a game and have a 9-man rotation and say, hey, man, 9 guys played great. You might say that once or twice a year. You normally are going to have other guys picking each other up. So I think, just that versatility and the ability to play multiple positions help everybody. And I talk about it in recruiting with guys all the time. It's like, everybody wants to play 30 minutes. You say, I want to play the whole game. You're not going to play the whole game. You have a couple guys that'll come close in the whole league that'll do that. But for the most part, you're striving to play 30 minutes a game. And if you can get that from a couple different spots, that really helps you. And I talk to anybody about that that's a versatile player because it just makes sense. And I think when you can do those things and you can try to offset maybe some weaknesses, or you can attack some weaknesses of your opponent because you can go a couple different ways and play and really utilize guys in that capacity.
You're on a pretty good run here the last couple of classes of getting guys you've really, really wanted. Is there something you can put your finger on that you guys are recruiting at a pretty high level right now, or one of the highest levels you've probably recruited at Purdue? Or
Well, I would say just the consistency of our program. Obviously we went to a couple Sweet 16s and Elite 8. We're graduating our players. You see our guys develop and get better, and you have a lot of examples to take from in that area. And so anytime, you're able to, get a great education at Purdue, be around great people, and then come to a program that's winning basketball games and guys are developing and getting better, I think that's what you want. I know that comes off pretty simple, but it really just kind of shows where you are, putting your attention to your needs, but we're getting the people that we want to. And I think that's an important. And I talked about that, checking those boxes, trying to get, a great person, a great student, and a great player. It doesn't always work that way because sometimes the people that you go after that check those boxes, you don't get them.
Right.
It's just kind of simple. It's in recruiting. Everybody gets told no. Nobody gets told yes by every single person that they want in recruiting. It's part of it. But then you got to be able to make that next decision and move on when someone says no to you. So it's great. It's been really good to recruit guys that, on that first tier, so to speak. But we've had it where we've went after guys and then not been able to get them and then kind of move to the next guy. And that next guy's ended up being better than the guy that you wanted.
Right.
You guys have seen that in rankings a lot. So just, still sticking with the right fit at Purdue. And, these two guys are the right fit at Purdue. Our freshman class currently, I think these guys are all great fits. They're really getting thrown into the fire here with a lot of moving parts, with injuries and COVID. And it's just a different landscape right now. But it's also a great opportunity to grow, get better. And that's what you want. You want to go somewhere, where they need you. And I think that's something we've been able to really sell with the guys that have had success in our program and their growth.
Have junior year official visits helped Purdue? Because Jaden, Ethan, and now Trey and Caleb were all guys you got junior year official visits out of. Is that something that worked to produce strengths, or
I think
how big of a problem is it maybe this cycle not having them?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of things that go on in recruiting where like schools sell their situation, and I'm still floored when kids go places that nobody goes to their games. Like if you have an opportunity to go somewhere and get a great education, play in a great program, and people go to your games. We were one of 9 schools to sell out last year. Like why wouldn't you want to go somewhere? If you've got a great relationship with the coaching staff and you trust them, that they sell out. Like basketball is important here, and our fans are great. I mean, people could argue that their fans are just as good, but there's no fans out there that are better than ours. And this environment that we have in Mackey Arena is unbelievable. So when we get people on junior visits, especially someone of distance, and they come here, it's surreal. Like they think that's the greatest game that we're having that year. And then we got to tell them, no, that's the way it is every game. And so I think when you see that kind of environment, and then I think we have a family environment in our program. Over the last 40 years, we've had 2 coaches. And so I just think when you talk about Purdue basketball and you get to a game and you see the support that we have and you meet the people and it's, elite education and elite basketball, I think you're going to help your cause. And I think there's not a lot of stability, in college sports right now. There's a lot of things moving. I think there's a lot of things moving in college basketball, period. The one-time transfers coming through. You have name, image, and likeness. We're dealing with a pandemic. So if you can have stability and be somewhere for a long time, kids want to wrap their hands around that. They want to be a part of that. Why do you want to go somewhere where it's uncertain about what's going on, or they haven't had success, or they're not graduating their players? So I think now when you sit back and you have your checklist as a recruit, these things are really mattering. And maybe to a different way, it's kind of helped us, with that in the last couple of years, is getting those junior visits and people to be able to come in and really get a good glimpse of what goes on a daily basis at Purdue, and then having some time. It's not like any of these guys made their junior visit and then a week later they turned around and committed to us. They're able to, sit on it, think about things, make visits other places, see other things, and then make their decision.
One last thing for me. You'd mentioned before this might be an era of oversigning for you because of the transfer stuff coming down the pike. Will you continue looking here for a transfer or for another player through the course of the year to add one to this class?
Yeah, we'll continue to look. I think in the landscape of college basketball, with the things that I mentioned that are changing, everybody's going to be looking for somebody else. Everybody always, because you're going to be concerned, about losing guys. Because a lot of if you're going to allow everybody to transfer and not have to sit out, and then you have 15 guys on your team, I think it's very from a common sense standpoint to realize you can't keep 15 people happy. And that's the way it's been through the years. So I think this is really going to show who's come to school, for the right reasons. If it's just a basketball decision and that's it, you're going to see a lot of change. We had over 1,000 transfers last year in Division I. And so I think you're going to see more of that. But that's what our staff has to continue to do, is keep going out and doing their homework and then targeting the right guys for Purdue. Because I think when you're doing that, you're going to lessen your chance of guys leaving your program. Doesn't mean you're going to totally correct that. And there is positive transfers. There is situations where, guys just don't fit, or there's unintended consequences sometimes to a decision. So there's a lot of things that go on that make sense for somebody to leave. That's not what anybody is saying, but the guys that aren't going to kind of fight through some things and face a little bit of adversity and just, walk out the door and go there, I think those guys are going to have a tough time finding success.
All right. I'll pass it off. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Anyone else have anything?
Yeah, I wanted to I guess Brian kind of alluded to this, but how important is it to stack classes together like you have when you're trying to build a team that gets to that next level, to get, 4-star guys in one group, then the next group, then the next group, and suddenly all those guys are kind of competing with each other for playing time?
Right. Well, I think we're, competing together to win a championship is how I would frame it. Anytime you get guys that, or you get classes, as you said, back to back or 3 in a row, especially, you feel good about it. And that's, what you're trying to do is you're trying to build and have a good team, but also grow old with that team. If you look at the success we've had, maybe outside of one situation, we've had teams growing old, teams staying together, teams fighting through adversity. And then when you do that, you got some bumps in the road, but you really have been able to grow in and compete for championships. We've won 3 Big Ten titles, but we've been second 4 or 5 times. Like, we've been right there. And that's what you want. And anytime you're first or second in this league, third in this league, you're going to get a pretty good seed in the NCAA tournament. And that's what you want. You want to put yourself in the best situation and then be able to compete and advance in the NCAA tournament to the best of your ability. So it's really important. Just keep doing it. Keep trying to find the right fit and keep having that consistency. But don't forget also about the players in your program. I think sometimes that gets lost a little bit. You got to keep recruiting. You got to keep bringing in guys. But you got to keep putting in time and developing and growing the players in your program, because that's your product. Your product are your players, those people, and those guys do an unbelievable job of selling our program. And I think that's what's so important about having a staff and communicating and being very honest about what we expect of you, as a student, as a player, and now those guys can really talk to those recruits and really sell, what our vision is and how we do things at Purdue.
Can you kind of allude to some of the challenges of recruiting Trey during COVID? Caleb's been committed for a while, but obviously, Trey's in a part of the state that's tough for Purdue to get guys. And right. It probably says a lot to your staff that you were able to get him from that area.
Well, he visited campus a lot before, the restrictions of COVID in the spring. So he probably got to our campus a handful of times, maybe more. And so I think, he was very thorough with us. We built a good relationship. Our whole staff, got to know, Trey and his family. Same way we, got to know Caleb and, and his family. And so we didn't handle it, any differently. We just tried to sell what we have to offer and, the successes that we've had. And I think that, really paid off. Just keep building a relationship and, keep talking about the things we have to offer. But, from his angle of it, he was able to get here a lot and see, before, there's restrictions where you couldn't. So I think that, really helped us, but it also helped other people. He obviously visited, other schools too.
I have one last thing that's not recruiting related. So if anybody has any recruiting questions and wants to ask them, I'll pass it off.
Yeah.
You go ahead with yours, and then we'll go to the next one. We can go back and forth.
Okay. Well, I'm writing a profile feature on David Wood, the West Lafayette High School coach, and this 27th year now. I don't know if he was on Coach Katie's staff when you got there, or if he was in the process of recruiting you, but I'm sure you have a pretty good relationship with him. Just what's his impact been on this community in basketball at the high school level?
I think, for me, he recruited me. And so he never coached me. But he had recruited me. And so I built a relationship with him through recruitment. He was one of the reasons I came to Purdue. He did a great job of selling Coach Katie, and they started recruiting me in the spring. So it wasn't a long recruitment. And, he talked about, Coach and, how he was as a person and, how he could help me as a person and a player. And, but, through the years, we're friends and we get along. And, I think anytime you have a coach like Coach Wood, he's a truth teller. And so he enjoys the game. He enjoys being around people, anybody that's around him, whether he's teaching at Purdue or West Lafayette or, coaching at West Lafayette, enjoys being around him. That's something that I like as a person. I like enjoying myself and going out to practice every day and helping guys out, just enjoying life. Losing makes you miserable. And so anybody that's coached or played, when you lose, man, you're miserable. So it's hard. It just is. It's hard because you're competitive and you want to win. But, I think Coach Wood, is very similar to how we are here is, he finds, the fun in the game of basketball. He finds the fun in life, and he enjoys himself, and he enjoys life. And so, kids want to play for him. But he's been great. He's been great, for this community. He's been great for West Lafayette, and he was great for Purdue when he was an assistant here.
Thanks, Matt.
No problem. Anybody else got anything?
Yes, Coach. I got a question real quick. Can you give any comment on the later signing period? Any update on Blake Wesley's recruitment out of South Bend?
Yeah, we don't right now have any scholarships, so I can't comment on somebody that hasn't signed a letter of intent.
That's okay. I just wanted to ask just in case. And then the other question that I have is, do you have a date in mind of when these signees are going to be on campus and start working?
I don't understand your question.
Like when do they get here and start working?
Oh, when do they come to the school?
Yeah, because of the pandemic.
Yeah, they'll come the start of summer school. So that's normally that second week in June or the start of the third week in June. Just depends on how the calendar hits in 2021.
Okay. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it.
No problem. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just got one, Matt. Can you talk about the significance of signing, if not the two best players in the state, at least certainly two of the best, and keeping that talent not just in state but at Purdue?
Right. Well, I think anytime somebody has a job and you want to recruit your local area hard, you don't want to see people that are good players that fit at your school leave and go somewhere else and be successful. But it happens. I think there's no way that you can stop that if you stay somewhere for a long time from happening. You just can't. Like, somebody's going to have. I got recruited, and Ball State was 30-3 my senior in high school. Rick Majerus has proved he was one of the best coaches in America. But I didn't want to stay in Muncie, Indiana. I wanted to experience something different. It's not a knock on anything. That's just how I felt. So when we have guys that we lose that are close or, in the area or in the state, however you want to phrase it, it's just a part of it. Each person is allowed to do what they want to do and make the decision that they think is best for them. So I totally get that and totally understand that. But with that being said, you want to fight and really work towards getting those guys, like Caleb Furst and Trey Kaufman in your program. They have all the ingredients that are going to lead to success, and you want to coach those guys. And so for us to be able to land some guys in the state, I just don't want to sign guys in the state just to sign guys in the state to be able to, talk the rhetoric that, we're getting all these guys in the state. I want to get guys that fit at Purdue, period. I want guys that want to get their education, that want to be coached, that, have a competitive spirit to them, that when they come in, it's like, what can I do to help Purdue win? Because if they want to be a pro, they're going to have to go to an organization and help them win. That's still the defining, piece to everything, is what do you do that leads to success? And we feel like we got two great players that are already winners, that have already won state championships, that are going to try to win another state championship this year, and help them come here and hopefully help us win a Big Ten championship and have success in the NCAA tournament and get to a Final Four. That's what we're doing, but also get a great education and not lose our soul in the process. And I think those guys have that balance and that understanding of what's going on. So those things to me are more important. But you do make a great point. When you're in a state like Indiana where there's a lot of good players, and if you can get one or two of them each year, you're probably going to end up, if you got the right ones, which we feel we do, you're going to end up being pretty successful in a couple years down the road.
All right, thanks. That's all I got.
Thank you, Tim.
Can I jump back in?
You sure can. We wouldn't think anything less of you.
I just wanted to get a little bit more from you on both of the guys individually. Can you just tell me what sets Caleb apart? First of all, you were on him really early. You knew he wanted him pretty quick. Just what is it about him that, I guess, sort of defines him in your eyes?
Right. Well, anytime you're that young and you have that kind of size, when you first start recruiting somebody as a freshman or sophomore in high school, and you can move that way. I know, his mobility for somebody that is that big and his athleticism really sets him apart. And, now, as you grow and you move from high school to college, you go from being the biggest guy on the high school court to not always going to be the biggest guy on the college court, and then professionally, that really changes. And so now the development, of his game, and his high school coach has done a great job with him. And His AAU program has done a great job with him. He's played against great players. He's competed. He's played the right way. I've been able to see him in a lot of different settings, whether that's open gym, lifting weights, AAU games, high school games, just across the board. Anytime you have that long recruitment of somebody, you see him in a lot of different environments. He's just been really successful and played hard. But I would think from the physical piece, it's that mobility for that size and that kind of athleticism. A lot of times guys of his size don't have that kind of athleticism. But I think his skill is improving and he's getting better. He does a good job of finishing at the rim. He can drive the basketball. It's just hard to drive it sometimes when you're the biggest guy on the court and you got 3-4 people around you in a high school game. But I think you'll start to see some things open up for him. And then, like I said, his improvement at the free throw line. He shot 82% last year, which is great, which is fabulous. And so it just kind of shows as you grow into that, now growing into that consistent, perimeter shooter, I think is his next step. But while you're doing it, you're still trying to win games at the high school level. Some things get a little restricted because sometimes the attention you get, Caleb gets a lot of attention in a high school game. He's got some guys on his high school team that can stick it too. He's got a couple guys that are going to be good college players also. So it's, he's got a lot of people around him, but he's also got a couple guys that can make people pay if you overdo it and put 3 to 4 people around him. Trey Kaufman is, a guy that's really worked. He's worked on his body. He's put a lot of time into it. He's really searched out kind of anything and anybody to help his cause. Just wants to get better, really enamored, with the game. And so his ability to move and shoot the basketball and, pass the basketball, I think, he's going to have to be that 3-4. He's going to get into some matchup situations where he's going to have smaller people on him, at times bigger people on him. And so just, being able to drive the ball, he can make intermediate shots. He can pull up and shoot, which a lot of times 6'8" guys can't. But being able to shoot threes consistently, being able to make a pull-up, being able to play in the post, facilitate and pass. He's just got a really good skill set, for somebody that size. But, just a hardworking guy, blue collar. And like I said about him and Caleb, they have a lot of the same qualities when it comes to success.
I'm good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I had one, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Fire away.
Yeah, you've obviously with Caleb being from Fort Wayne, you've had a lot, some big hits from Fort Wayne during your career. Rayfeld Davis, Caleb Swanigan, even Grady, even though he was a walk-on. What is it about recruiting Fort Wayne that you seem to get some of these guys that really do have an impact on the program long term?
Well, I think it's the proximity. Obviously, you're only 2 hours away from campus. And it's also anytime somebody has success in your program, you feel comfortable with somebody from your hometown that you can go talk about life at Purdue, the basketball program, the coaching staff, and get an accurate assessment. So the more you can have success, with people from that area, now they have a good sounding board to talk to people, about Purdue and what it has to offer. So I think it just, really multiplies, and I think it makes sense, why go away from it? If I'm from a certain area and I got people from my area going somewhere and they're getting a great education and they're having a great experience and they're winning a lot of basketball games, I think it makes sense to be able to follow that lead. Obviously, I'm very biased, but I think a lot of those things really feed into it, and it's really helped our cause because of the success we've had with the past guys from Fort Wayne.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.